Hey everyone, Dan here. If you're tuning in today's episode, which you are because you're listening to this right now, we have a special treat for you today. We're going to deviate a little bit from our usual format of interviews. And by the way, these interviews lately have been getting a lot of really great feedback. People have been messaging me and emailing me, and we're just over 6 months on the air with the show, and I've really been loving it so far, and kind of the interactions and relationships with you all, the listeners, have been really fantastic. But today's episode's a little bit different. It's a solo show with me. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous. Experts on the Wire, episode 38. I answer questions. I'm answering 5 questions on today's show. We're going to talk about the Yoast SEO plugin. I'm going to reveal a private message thread that I had in 2010 where I actually got one of my very first SEO clients. You're going to learn all about that. And finally, somebody puts me to the challenge and wants to know how I'm going to get a guest like Gary Vaynerchuck. Yes, the GaryVee on this very podcast. And I have an answer. Real quick, though, I want to give a quick shout out to Angus Carbarnes. He is at AngusCarbarns on Twitter. Say hello to him as a fellow experts listener. Thank you for the tweet the other day. Angus said, really enjoyed the recent podcast with Jono Alderson. A lot of very interesting discussion points around the modern agency model in SEO. Thank you so much again, Angus. Make sure to say hello to him on Twitter. We have 5 questions today. 4 are voicemails. 1 I'm going to read out loud. Let's get right into the first question with Umar, who asks about the Yoast SEO plugin.
Please, I actually wanted to know if the free Yoast SEO is better than the paid All In One SEO. So I actually want to know because I'm thinking of migrating to the free All-in-One free Yoast, then leaving behind the paid All-in-One SEO.
Umar, cool music in the background. So if you didn't catch his question, he wants to know what's better, the free Yoast plugin or the paid All-in-One SEO plugin. I know there's a lot of fear and anxiety out there about which tool do I install, especially at the beginning of the process. You don't want to install a tool and then realize down the road that you made the wrong decision, and now you have to backtrack and you have to migrate from one tool to the other. So it does depend a little on the situation, but if you are beginning a new site, I would just go right away with Yoast, with the free version of Yoast. It is definitely superior in my reviews of comparing Yoast versus the all-in-one, the free version. So just go right with Yoast if you're beginning a new site. If you are already involved in the site and you've installed All In One SEO and your site is not really that large, like we're talking below 1,000 pages or so, you can probably just get by with continuing to use All In One. It can do all the fundamental things that you need it to do, especially for a small site. But if you're operating on a much larger site, 1,000 pages, 5,000, 10,000 plus, you're going to need something, in my opinion, a little bit more robust with some more features and functions like the Yoast SEO plugin. I just find that it helps you control things like indexation, accessibility, all the social media markup, the tagging. It really does control that, in my opinion, at a better level than the free all-in-one. Now, I haven't done enough work on the paid versions of either one of these plugins. I've played around a little bit with the paid version of Yoast, but I can't say is the paid version of All-in-One better than the free one of Yoast or vice versa. My recommendation is to really not make a huge deal of this if, like I said, you have a small site. To put things into context, a lot of people really worry about this, and I understand you don't want to go down the wrong path and lose rankings, or you don't want your site to not perform the best that it could. And I understand people, we care about our sites and we want them to do well. However, I would not sweat this in the grand scheme of things. The impact that your SEO plugin is going to have on your rankings and your site traffic and performance is far less than all of the other sort of proactive important things that you can do, such as the quality of your content, the brand you're building, the community, the marketing. All these other bigger things are way more important in context than just what SEO plugin you're using. Remember, the SEO plugin is not going to magically just make your site rank well. It's going to check a lot of good technical boxes, but it's not going to get your rankings from point A to point B. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to install Yoast and magically my rankings are going to shoot up, that's not quite how it works. Yoast is a tool that helps you check off certain technical boxes, and you can use it for that purpose. So, Umar, I hope that helps answer the question for you. Thank you so much. The second question came through from Martin, and he asks about SEO on social media sites.
What are the best equivalent, if any, SEO practices for getting a top position in the internal searches on the big social network platforms like Facebook, Twitter, etc.?
Hey, Martin, great question. You know, we often think of Google as the search engine. In fact, I hear people say things like, you hear people say, I'm going to go Google that. They don't say, I'm going to go to my favorite search engine, DuckDuckGo, and search for that. We've come to look at Google as this ubiquitous synonym for search engines. But I love the question. So, I mean, we could be talking about so many things, and this could make a whole podcast topic in itself. I mean, we could be talking about YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Yelp, Amazon SEO, eBay SEO. There's so many platforms, Etsy SEO. But I want to address a couple that I have some personal experience with. And a lot of this is my observation. I have not tested a lot of the ranking factors in these platforms, but I have observed them very closely and kind of picked apart what I think seems to be working for them. So first one is YouTube. Now, of course, YouTube is owned by Google, probably has a similar algorithm system, a similar system for identifying the intent behind the searches to match what people are trying to find within YouTube. And there are a few things that I've caught by hearsay and noticed that help YouTube videos rank. One being is that if you're trying to rank a video of a topic and there are other videos of that topic, look at what the background, what the color, what the kind of the static image of that video looks like. For example, I record a lot of piano videos, right? So a lot of these you see overhead shots of the piano. So like Google and YouTube is looking at what does this video look like? Does this video look like a piano? And so therefore they may be more likely to rank it. So they're actually ranking, I believe, based upon the visual appearance of that video. So are you somebody that's sitting at a news desk trying to do news content in YouTube? Well, go look at other news-like content that ranks well in YouTube and try to emulate what does it look like. Is the desk kind of 50% up the screen? Do they have like a blue background? Is there a black strip across the bottom? Is the person sitting in the middle? And try to make your video look like the topic you're talking about. So that's number one. Number two is I do have the sense that if you try to create playlists and keep people within YouTube, keep them in that ecosystem, YouTube's going to look at your channel and say, oh, this person's keeping their users within YouTube. I kind of like this channel. I'm going to keep ranking these videos because these videos are helping users stay within YouTube, and that's what they want. That's what YouTube wants. So what I would do is create playlists topically around all of your videos that you're posting in there. And then that way users can more easily kind of navigate through your content, and also you're creating some internal linking within YouTube. So there's a lot of other YouTube factors, I think, just basic keyword targeting in the titles, in the tags, optimizing for click-through rate, obviously the duration of how long people watch your videos, so doing things to capture their intention, keep their intention, keep them coming back to your videos. All these things have an effect. So next one is Twitter. And what I've seen in Twitter is when you now search for something, Twitter's going to give you kind of that filtered version of your search result, right? You have to click on live to get every actual tweet that has that keyword. And what I've seen in Twitter is that if you're an account that has a high number of followers, or your particular tweet has gotten a lot of engagement, a lot of retweets, a lot of favorites, a lot of replies, Twitter's going to surface that for searches of that topic. So really the goal always in any social network like Twitter especially is for that engagement. And this you need to build over time. It's not just a one and done thing. It's not an overnight thing. So people that are ranking well in Twitter searches are people that have spent a lot of time engaging in Twitter, listening and responding to people, answering questions, not just pushing out content, but listening and responding and trying to help. So I get the sense with Twitter, that's really the game there, is building the authority of your account so you can show the engagement that gives Twitter the reason to rank your content. And finally, we have Instagram. This is one of my favorites. I run a fairly active Instagram account where I do mostly architectural photography. If anyone's interested, you can go to Dan Shore, no spaces or anything like that, DANSHURE in Instagram, and you can see my account. But I've done a lot of work with hashtagging and really trying to get my photos exposure within Instagram. And so the name of the game in Instagram is hashtags, hashtags, hashtags. And don't just go with the big head keywords like architecture. You really have to dig and find mid and long tail keywords to use as hashtags in Instagram. Look for things that have only been used maybe 20,000 to 100,000 times in Instagram, because if you're tagging something hashtag food and there's 10 million pictures with the hashtag food on it, nobody's going to see it. It's going to get pushed down really quickly. So that's number one, is really doing the work to find the right hashtags within Instagram. So, and finding that sweet spot where enough people are looking at those hashtag feeds that they're likely to see your photo. But number two is not choosing too many hashtags that get too many posts, because your photo is going to get pushed down and no one's ever going to see it. That's number one. Number two is, again, this is an engagement thing here. So Instagram for a while has been ranking the top, I think it's 6 or 9 photos at the top of a hashtag result, right? So if you go in there, you search architecture, you're going to see 6 or 9 featured photos at the top. Now, these are photos that have gotten traditionally a lot of likes and a lot of engagement for that hashtag. So again, the name of the game here is really building your audience and your authority in Instagram over time. And of course, this goes to the quality of the content, right? The amount of work you put into the hashtags you're posting, going into other people's Instagram accounts that have similar, photos, a similar type of account. I go into architecture profiles all the time and find photos I like, and I comment on them and I favorite them and I follow people that post the kind of photos that I like. And this engagement over time in Instagram is going to help you build your authority and your following in there as well. And that's just going to amplify the fact that you're going to be able to rank with those hashtags. So like I said, I'm not as familiar with the other platforms like Pinterest or eBay or Amazon, so I'm not going to speak to those. But Martin, it was a great question, and I hope that helped you. The third question is from Thomas. It's about none other than the Gary Vaynerchuck.
You had at least 4 jabs to get GaryVee on the phone. So what is your hook?
If you didn't catch that, he wants to know what my hook is going to be to get Gary Vaynerchuck on this show. And if you don't know, he has a thesis that's jab, 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 right hook. The jabs are the engagement, the helping, the providing value, and the hook is the ask. It's asking somebody to buy something or somebody to do something for you. My short answer is timing. That is exactly how I'm going to get Gary Vaynerchuck on this very podcast. Let me explain. So for the past 3 or 4 years, I have been following Gary and engaging with him on social. So I've done things like taken ideas that he's put forth and shown how they work and written a whole post around that and then made sure that he saw that. So I'm helping him get his message out there by showing that it actually works by putting it in practice. I've done things where somebody was presenting at a conference in front of 300 people and they mentioned Gary Vaynerchuck as somebody to follow on Snapchat. I took a picture of that and sent that over to Gary and said, hey, guess what? This person just mentioned you in front of 300 people for somebody to follow on Snapchat. To which he replied, can you please thank her? And I did that. And so there's been probably about a dozen engagements like that where I haven't just, replied to Gary and said, oh, thanks, or like, hey, how you doing? It was actually value that I was trying to provide to him over the course of a 3 or 4 year period. In parallel to that, I know that Gary does not like to do podcast or interview appearance very much, or at least not kind of shows like these, unless he has something he's actually promoting or selling. So when his last book came out, he went crazy. He was on hundreds of podcasts and YouTube interviews and everything, but that's over. I know if I were to ask Gary for an interview right now, it's not the right time. He's not in that mode. And I know that because I listen and I follow him and I pay attention to sort of what his concerns are. So that's the first part of the timing, is taking that 3 or 4 years to follow him, provide value, and wait for the right moment for when I know he wants to get out there and promote something. The second half of this is that in parallel, I am trying to build the following and the equity of this podcast as well. So trying to build the number of listeners, the number of followers that I have on Twitter, the number of people on the email list. Hint, 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 go sign up, evolvingseo.com. And I'm trying to build up the show to the point where the two things are going to merge. He's going to have something to promote, and I'm going to have a show that's, I hope, big enough, probably on the smaller side of big enough, but hopefully big enough where if I just simply ask him in one sentence, literally one sentence, hey, Gary, I know you're promoting something. Can you be on my show? That I have a pretty good feeling, a pretty good chance that he's going to say yes. And that's because I've just been patient, building sort of the social equity with him and also building the audience and the followership of this podcast and just waiting for the right moment until he's ready to hop on some interviews and promote something. To me, it's not really any more complicated than that. I think a lot of people really try to shortcut this process. They try to jump to the interview too quickly. They try to jump to, and this is his message, so it's kind of meta, but I'm just preaching his message here, really. They try to jump to asking for something too quick instead of building the equity in things first, building that momentum, and then waiting for the right time. I would rather get Gary on the show maybe a year later than I could have, but feel really good about that. Feel really good that the show is at a quality level to a point where I'm proud that he, like somebody of his sort of level, will come on and be a guest on the show. I don't really want to bring somebody like Gary that, I would really kind of value his time into a show that's only 20 episodes in. And, I'm not a great interviewer yet, or the sound quality is not as great. So that's part of it too. I mean, it's, him knowing that he's more likely to say yes if I wait for the right time, but also not wanting to shortcut that and bring him in too early. So I think that's a lesson for everyone out there. If you're doing a podcast, or if you have a blog and you're trying to get guest writers, or you're trying to sell something to somebody, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of waiting for the right time for when your product is of a high enough quality that you would be proud and that it really makes sense for that person to be involved in your product at that time. And you don't want to shortcut that and do it too soon, because that could kind of ruin things for you down the road. So Thomas, great question. As you can see, I'm very kind of passionate about this sort of thing, and I hope that answer somewhat helped and maybe a tiny bit entertained as well. The last question comes from Colin. It was via email, so I'm just going to read it. Colin says, do you have any advice about just starting out with freelance jobs? My current portfolio consists mostly of my own website. Is it better to buy my own domains and try SEO on them from scratch, or be upfront about my limited experience and do some work for cheap? As you know, in the music world, lots of times you have to play for free or beer. I've been there. Until you get a reputation as a reliable freelancer. Is SEO the same? I don't want to undercut anyone else who's trying to make a living, but I also know that getting the first foot in the door is the most difficult. Colin, awesome question. I know I told you a little while ago on email that I would answer this, and finally getting to it. So I have kind of a little surprise for everyone. In just a moment, I'm going to read an actual private thread that involved one of my very first SEO gigs. But first, Colin, let me just try to answer this as clearly as I can for you. Yeah, it is totally fine to do some jobs for free or for very cheap as you're getting going. I mean, you need to have work as a way to build, obviously eventually you want to make income, but you need the work to build your reputation and your portfolio of case studies. And so there's sort of a synergy there, a mutual benefit that each of you can receive if you're totally upfront and honest with the person that you want to do work for and say exactly what you said to me. Say, look, I'm just starting out. I'm just getting experience. Let me do these things for you on your site. I'm pretty confident I can help you. I'll do it for free, but when it helps, could you give me a testimonial? Could we do a case study? Could you give me even a video testimonial? Oftentimes that person will find that to be a mutual benefit between you and that site. And so, as promised, I'm going to jump over and read an excerpt of a private thread that I had with a music studio on a piano teachers forum, October 15th, 2010. I can't believe this is almost 6 years ago to the day. Let me set the scene for you. So, 2010, I was miserable teaching piano lessons. I had been teaching piano lessons for over 10 years at that point, since college. And I desperately wanted to get out of that and into something else. And this wasn't just about money. This was about wanting to find the next thing that I could get really excited about and sort of be passionate about. And SEO really was that thing, as I came to discover. But at that time, just like you, Colin, I had only done SEO work for my own website. In fact, that's how I got most of my piano students when I moved to a new area, was I did SEO on my own website. I did SEO for my dad's two businesses. I did SEO for my friend, the piano tuner. I kind of helped him launch his business as a piano tuner in Boston, Massachusetts, a very competitive area for piano tuning, by the way, in case anyone cares about that. But the point is, yeah, like you, I had done this all sort of for myself or for friends, but not really professionally, not really like officially. So what I needed was that one opportunity to do something and show that it worked, as a case study. And so my opportunity fell on my lap on October 15th, 2010. I had been interacting in the piano forums and providing not only piano teaching advice, but marketing and SEO advice to other piano teachers that were trying to grow their studio. This is something that I had done and been successful at, and was just trying to help. Now, I had no plan here, right? I know that if you just go in the community and provide value, things will come back to you. I know a lot of, CEOs and business owners and VPs of market, like a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that, but it's something I've always done, and it has always returned value. So I got a message one day from the username Michigan Teacher. And basically this person wrote to me and she said, I'll just sum up here. She said, hey, we're launching this new music studio. Here's the website. It just launched, but we're really having trouble understanding our SEO and kind of going through all the information out there. Can you provide me with any tips? And that was a private message left in the forum. And I'm not going to read my entire reply. It is a little lengthy, but to sum it up for you, I could have responded back and just said, oh yeah, here's some tips, optimize your titles, go to your Google listing and, add photos to your Google map page and all this stuff. But I didn't do that. I said, okay, here's an opportunity for me to offer. And I think, Colin, this is what you're trying to wrap your head around now is, do I offer something for free? And that's exactly what I did in this situation. I wrote back to the owner of this music studio and I basically said, hey, here's a few tips. I gave her a few free tips right there in the forum, but I said, I'm about to really try to branch out and do SEO as, a full-time thing. And I would like to work with some people and develop a case study. And would you be willing to let me spend a few hours working with you, improve your site, show some results, and then in return, you don't have to pay me. Just give me the permission to use this site as a case study. And that was essentially what I offered. And a couple days later, or not even a couple days later, I think literally 7 hours later, she wrote back and she said, yes, I'm in, let's do it. And Colin, the whole point, and for everyone listening out there, the whole point of that story is yes, it's okay to offer something, I think, for free when you're just beginning out. But I'm going to kind of bookend this with a big caveat. You want to be really careful to not leave any gray areas. And this goes for any consulting work. So I like to think of it as all or nothing. I don't think of anything as gray. Okay. So either I'm going to do something for free because of the value I can get from that. There's even things I would do for free now if it's for a particular person that I sense could provide a lot of value back to me. And that value is as great or bigger than the time and energy and effort that I'm going to put into that. So this doesn't just apply to when you're beginning, but you want to make sure that, there's no gray area. It's not free and then like cheap and then like semi-cheap. And then you've got your full price. It's free or your full price. And that's it. And I like to just have it black and white like that. Otherwise, there's no confusion and you don't get into any of these disagreements or gray areas. So Colin, what I would do if I were you is have a price in mind that you ultimately want to charge for your services. And, that price can go up over time as you get more experience, as you get more results, as you get more case studies, as you get better at what you're doing, and as you get bigger clients with bigger budgets. But have a set price that's your minimum for right now and do either free for something else in value in return or charge your full price. I would not straddle that middle ground. I would go completely free or go with your minimum full budget. So Colin, I hope that helps answer your question. And yeah, I know it is a little tough when you're starting out, but just by emailing me, I mean, Colin, you emailed me a couple questions, and by doing that and networking, and now I'm talking about you on this show. I mean, you're doing kind of all the right things. So take that next step, maybe get a client or two, get those case studies, get that rolling, and I think you'll be well on your way. The fifth and last question is actually kind of a fun one. It's from somebody that you may have seen out there in the SEO world.
This may or may not be Glenn from VibeChill.com, who wants to know when you're going to get Glenn on the show.
Hey, Glenn from ViperChill, you are welcome on this show anytime. And for those of you out there that aren't familiar with Glenn's work at ViperChill, go check it out. It's one of the best SEO blogs out there today. Those questions were so much fun, and I hope they entertained and provided a little bit of value. If you want to ask me a question that might end up on this podcast at some point, you can go to evolvingseo.com and look for the Leave Me a Voicemail tab that's on the side or on the bottom, really on any page that you go to, and just drop me a line there. We'll get you on the show. So that's it. That's a wrap today. Really short and sweet episode, answering some questions. I'm really curious to hear what everyone out there thinks about this format of the show. Did you hate it? Did you like it? Did you have mixed thoughts about it? Please message me on Twitter at DAN_SHURE. That's at Dan_SHURE on Twitter. Let me know. I'm all ears. I really want to know your honest thoughts on this format for the show. Like I said, we're going to go back to mostly interview formats. I've really been liking those, digging into topics such as SEO, social media. We've got some great guests coming up talking all about the new SERP displays in Google, the knowledge graph, the answer boxes, a guest that you may have heard of actually, and some really great stuff coming up. But I may try this format again in the future. Please be honest and tell me what you thought. And again, if you want to sign up on the email list to get the show notes delivered straight to your inbox when these new shows come out, you can sign up on evolvingseo.com. Just go to any post where there's an episode of the podcast and fill out the MailChimp form on the right-hand side. Well, it's been great spending a half an hour with everyone again this week on Experts on the Wire. I will see you again next week for episode 39 of Experts on the Wire. Coming up, talking all about like SERP. I can't talk. We've got some great guests coming up talking all about